I want you to understand first why duplication is important. Everyone here, I believe, has like a business booklet with them, and if you flip open to the business tools, you'll see the Young Living income disclosure. And obviously this is a business session, so we're trying to talk about how to develop the best residual income. And I want you to start looking through the ranks of the average monthly payout, average annual income. And I believe executives around $600, silver is about $2,200. But then you start getting to diamond, average is about $30,000 per month. Crown diamond average is, I think, $58,000. And royal is like $110,000 a month, I believe. So when you start looking at those bigger numbers, is that realistic for one person to ever accomplish something like that on their own, to like humanly make that kind of dough with Young Living? It's not realistic for one person to do it. It's only realistic for a person that's leading a team. And that's why duplication becomes so important, because I wish almost like they had the average group size beside those ranks as well, because although I rank as a crown diamond, I've got 4 diamonds in my organization, and we accumulate about 23,000 members. Again, I didn't find all 23,000 members, and I did not automatically start with a certain amount. I started at 0 like everyone else. I had 2 separate phases of my business. For the first few years, I treated my business like a hobby. I did it part-time when I felt like it, when I just whenever I wanted to do it, maybe mention it through day-to-day life, and I got very hobby results. I managed to get my way to silver without very little duplication. We had a few people joining per month, but not a lot of actual sharing going on outside of myself, because everything I was doing didn't duplicate. And so I think it is possible for an individual to potentially get to about silver, but I see some laughter, leave me alone. To get to, I don't know, how else do you say about? You get to that point, you can get to silver, but I don't think you can ever get beyond that, and you'll be a low-paid silver. So if we really want to reach the upper echelons of Young Living, we have to realize that this is not all what we can do, but what we can empower other people to do. And if we recognize that right from the beginning, that what we need to do needs to duplicate, we might as well start that way from the get-go. I believe Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of his habits is begin with the end in mind. If your end goal is platinum, diamond, crown, royal, you need to realize that the end result in that requires a ton of duplication. So that's why it's important to focus on simplicity and making sure that how you're sharing, hopefully the people you're introducing to Young Living will think, hey, that doesn't look so hard, I could do that. When I first quit my job, my duplication was slim to none. Like I said, I had about 250 members in my group, and there was relatively nobody else really sharing. Nobody had bought into the business or the vision. But when my group really started to skyrocket, it happened because it wasn't like anybody was doing more work specifically, but there was more people doing more work. So I know there's a saying, many hands make light work. This business is the same. We want to empower as many people as possible to all do a little bit. Last month in my group, we had about 2,500 new members join Young Living in the 30 days. I personally enrolled 2 of them, and about 1,000 other people enrolled 2 people as well. So getting those massive numbers is not really based. We do have some people that are those master recruiters. They can recruit 30, 40 people personally in a month. But what I've seen with those members is usually their business doesn't grow as exponentially because they're doing more of the work and they don't have as much of a team behind them potentially. So we need to understand that duplication is important and that it's not all about what we can do. The thing I like about, if you look in the back of the 4-year career, Richard, when he was writing those or editing the stories, he was very specific. He wanted to be very numbers-based. And if you look through the 11 different people featured in the back of that book, there's very few people in that book that have recruited more than 100 people. There's people listed in that book who have maybe recruited 40 or 50 people throughout their entire career. One of my diamonds last month, Heather Dahl, I think she's only personally enrolled about 45 people through her 1.5 years with Young Living. But what she's done a really good job on is empowering a lot of people in her organization to share with others. So if we can recognize that today, that it's not about what we do, but what we can help everyone else do, that'll make all of our journeys a lot easier. And I didn't know this at the beginning, so I didn't follow these principles. Vicki Opfer, she's a Royal Crown Diamond with Young Living. She was the one who really introduced me to this. I'll pull up the PowerPoint here. The two main truths of network marketing is however we introduce someone to the product is exactly how they will want to do it with others. So when we look at that, it really, if we step back and look at how we're sharing with people, we got to ask ourselves, when we're enrolling that person, can they see themselves in our shoes? And that's why we've really latched on to home events, because most everyone has some form of a home or a living room or a gathering place where they can host something like that. It doesn't require anything more than a starter kit and a product guide and maybe a couple pieces of paper. And the other fact is that duplication is required for success. There's no way to ever get to Crown Diamond by yourself, or Diamond, or whatever goal you want to achieve. And the ones that advance quicker, they are likely the best at empowering their group and duplicating. They're not necessarily the best personal recruiters themselves. So the saying that I've always heard for the past few years is not what works, it's what duplicates. Yes, being a chiropractor might work for bringing in people, but if it doesn't duplicate, it actually will slow down your end result. My mom's a practitioner. Yes, it works on enrolling people, but it doesn't work on duplicating that enrollment. That's why I think medical professionals potentially have some of the hardest time in a network marketing business, because they're automatically setting themselves up for a potential duplication failure simply based on their certifications. I did go to college for 2 years, but on every business card I've had for the past 2-3 years, I took any sort of credentials for that, simply because I don't want someone to think a couple letters behind my name is the reason why I became successful. And so if I can take those letters off, even though they cost me about 60 grand, it's still worth it for me in the end to get that better duplicating result. And my group is predominantly stay-at-home moms. Like, I don't want to, it's the hardest job of all, I've quickly realized once I take care of a few of these kids. But people can see themselves in their shoes everyday life. They see another mom who's sharing, and they say, okay, she's got 3 kids, I've only got 2. If she can do it, I can do it. She's got 4 kids. The number 1 recruiter in my organization, like I said, she's a mom of 6, and she runs a traditional business on the side. Her and her husband run a fitness center, and Young Living is the way that they're going to get out of that business, because it's also brought a ton of debt into their lives. Duplication is the key for success. System, acronym, save yourself time, energy, and money. You have to become system-driven, meaning however you enroll somebody and run them through a business process, you want it to look very similar all the time. So often when you see my business presentation tonight for the Intro to Business, it's the same every single month. And I had a bunch of my leaders come up to me and say, Adam, we're getting kind of tired of the same old thing. I tell the same jokes every month even too. So they're counting down, waiting for the joke to come. They're saying, we're kind of getting tired of it, maybe we should do something else. And I had to help them understand, this isn't for you. This is for the people you're supposed to be bringing to the event, because for them, it is their first time. And we're in a business where keeping things simple and duplicable is very important. So you look at pro athletes, they go to practice every single day or every other day or whatever, running the same drills over and over again because they're pros. They do repetitions. They don't just run a successful play once and say, I'm never going to run that play again. So when we find what works, what our good plays are in Young Living, we just want to repeat those over and over again, and we'll get consistently better and better duplicable results. So it's important to keep it simple. Vicki has a principle, she calls it her 24 versus 531, and we want to practice teaching sharing, not just personally sharing ourselves. So the 24, this is exactly from her heart-centered sharing document. The 24 is when we're sharing or educating, but we're not being duplicable. We may be acting as a healthcare advocate for someone who is not feeling well and needs our help. That is perfectly fine. It's our choice. The 531 is when we're sharing with and enrolling 2 people a month, and we're helping, teaching, and modeling so that everyone can do the same. We do this in a very heart-centered, helpful, and duplicable way. At any moment in your business, ask yourself if you're pointing towards the 24 or the 531. And I'll explain those numbers. But I think Young Living members in general often fall into the 24 category because we want to try and play medical professional. We want to help everyone support their ailments, figure out what's going to help their body. But this is why a reference guide in Young Living is absolutely essential, because we're not there to treat, diagnose, prescribe, and we don't want to be providing them the answers. We want to be providing them the resource to get their own answers. So reference guide becomes so important to move from the 24 to the 531, and lots of activities in which we engage in as a profession. I would say vendor trade shows are one of the categories that would probably fall under the 24, because what you're doing, I would say 95% of people don't want to do that. They don't see themselves in that. They don't like often the people who are standing behind booths. They feel like they're pushy, or they don't make eye contact when they're walking around. It can be great to get new contacts, new leads. I did a ton of farmers markets and trade shows. It's one of the ways I personally work through the fear of failure and the fear of talking to somebody, because I could get target practice on like 100 people a day. It worked. But where I had found success, my largest organization, about 7,000 members, it's got a platinum and a diamond in it right now. I enrolled her at that mom and baby trade show I talked about this morning, but the way that allowed me to duplicate that success is after I enrolled her, I followed up and said, hey, you have no idea how to use this kit you just bought. You talked to me for 5 minutes, made that purchase decision. If you have me over at your house and invite a few of your friends, I'll come and actually show you how to use it. Back then, I wasn't doing things very well. I didn't have a presentation outline. I didn't use a reference guide. I was just the smartest guy in the room, because that's what I knew at the point. But it still moved it from a model that potentially didn't duplicate very well, because she didn't want to do trade shows. She told me that right away, because that's how I enrolled her. She thought she had to do it that way. Once I moved it to a more comfortable setting that she could picture herself doing, it then produced rapid results. She had executive in 6 months of just doing these home sessions without even having a real business plan. Once she had executive, her name's Megan, by the way. Once Megan hit executive, then she kind of wanted to get that Aroma Complete kit, figured she would stop at silver, and now she's a platinum with a diamond in her group. So it kind of escalated throughout that journey with her. But I think the real reason that leg's been successful is because we've always really promoted transferring people into methods of duplication. So before I show you the full chart, 24, 531, the concept behind this is if you personally enrolled 2 people per month for 1 entire year, 12 months, you would have 24 people at the end of that year, correct? If we assume the average member spends $100 per month, you've got $2,400 in volume after 1 year, and you're a senior star. So that's fine. That's what happens when we enroll people in a way and we don't help them enroll others. We end up being a one-man show or one-woman show, and we get smaller, diminished results. But if we look at our business from a way of I'm going to still enroll 2 people per month, so month 1, I've got 2 people in my group. Month 2, I personally enroll another 2 people. But the difference between these mentalities is then when you're in month 2, you revisit the first 2 enrollments from month 1, you follow up, and you assist them in enrolling 2 people as well. So instead of having 4 people after 2 months, you've now got 8 people. Twice the results and less effort on your part. You've essentially duplicated yourself twice. When you follow that for a period of 12 months of that 2 sharing with 2, going back to the month before, can anyone guess what the total number ends up at? 531. It's actually 531,440. That's what exponential growth looks like. It's also called geometric progression. That's what they refer to it in the 4-year career book as. And it's that idea of compounding. If you look at, again, this is in the 4-year career book. I like these tools. It's near the back. It's a chart of a compounding penny. This was the one thing that they actually taught in school that was probably beneficial, but they skimmed over it. The idea of would you rather have $1 million day 1 or a penny that doubles every day for 31 days? When you're in grade 2, you're like, give me the $1 million. But if you follow that compounding penny, that duplication, by the end of 31 days, it ends up to be like $5.3 million. And so you can follow this along the side, 24 people, and how it exponentially gets bigger. And this might seem like, it's a pipe dream. It probably is, because that's assuming 100% of people will do this, but even if you take 1% of that, you still got over 5,000 people in your group at an average of $100 volume. You're still doing much better than the 24 categories. So it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's much better. And as long as every time you're going through the enrollment process, you're thinking to yourself, is this duplicable? Am I seeing the results of duplication? Because it should be quite apparent when you operate this way that it is working. My wife did a home event a week and a half ago. The lady invited 12 of her friends, 11 of the 12 enrolled, and she had 7 presentations booked within 3 days from that home event. So now that one event of 11 people has turned into 7 more events. And the way we run these events, and the way I learned this from Deborah Rayburn, who I think is a majority of people here upline, but I think she's got like a learn, lead, share 3-step process. But so we like to have it as being three main events. The first one, maybe I'll run for my new member. Let's say it's Vanessa. I'll help Vanessa run her first home presentation. The second one, I might be there as well, and I'll help do it with Vanessa and making sure that she knows the ropes, and I'm there as like a safety support system. By the third time, I might be there, but more as a background figure to make sure that she knows that there's still support. By the fourth event, I'm not there anymore. I moved on to the next person. Because we found if after the first 2-3 events the person's not taking it and running with it, then that's not a problem with me or the company or the comp plan. That's, again, their own personal choice. They haven't made the decision to own their business. This is an independent distributor. We want to make them independent, not dependent on you as their sponsor. When you run that way, it can get exponentially bigger. That one event turned into 7. If each of those events even just turns into 2 more events, you're now at like 21 events in that one organization. The first host of the event, she made $700 her first night. Do you think she's going to be potentially interested in the business aspect after cashing that check? Absolutely. Just took a product user, made them a business builder. They didn't even know they were going to do it. Whoops. So this is the basic premise of which we try and function all of our business decisions on is, will it duplicate? Because if it doesn't duplicate, it won't produce the results we want in the end. And especially for when I'm up here, I've got great people in my organization. If I wasn't there to empower people like you and in my organization, then if you don't have that system set up in place, then you're essentially almost setting your people up for failure because you're not giving them a guideline to work with. And if it doesn't duplicate for everyone, then it's going to be a lot harder for them. And I don't want to be just one guy cashing okay checks. I want to be empowering everyone else to earn whatever they want, as much as they want, and have them succeed in the least amount of time. Because the great thing about this business is it's a generational business, meaning that you can take the experience of myself, Tom and Evangeline, Sonia. You can take these leaders, find out what they did right, what they did wrong. We'll likely only teach you what we did right or make you learn from our mistakes. But you can take that experience and you can learn it day one. Who here is this anyone's first Young Living event that you've been to? Great, so everyone here is learning something today. Like you're at a business event, that's awesome. You're learning stuff today that's the compound effect of 4 to 5 years of my life's journey and what I figured out, and you're getting that all force-fed to you in one day. You are already that much smarter. Theoretically and in practice, you should be able to succeed much quicker than anyone else before you because you now know even more what works. The 4-year career is a great tool. Young Living uses a ton of them. But a year and a half ago, that didn't exist. Everyone who started building a year and a half ago had no business intro tool like that to use and focus on. So as a company, we just keep getting smarter and smarter, better and better. And as the leaders become more and more developed, we can produce better trainings. We can train all of Young Living better, and then we just get exponentially greater results, which if you saw Travis Ogden's post about our sales, did anyone not see that? I think I'm going to talk about it later tonight. But you see there's an exponential jump in Young Living's growth over the past year or two. Again, that's that same idea of duplication, that compounding effect of more and more people sharing. If you look at a pro stadium that fits 20,000 people and you stick me in there, the odds on me filling a stadium of 20,000 people individually, it just would never happen. But you throw 50 people in there and get them each to bring 2. Next month they bring 2. Here I think we've got 350 people. If everyone here brought one person to the event tonight, do you know what kind of problem we'd be in? I don't think there's enough space, is there, Sonia? So if everyone here brought 2 people, we'd be flown out the back door. So I challenge everyone here to try, and my goal every single month, no matter what rank I'm at, is I'm trying to model the behavior of bringing in 2. And I can look back at my past 3-4 years of being full-time Young Living, and if I look at my group average, my average is about 3 per month. And then I want to go back to them, help them enroll their own, and continue that duplication. At no point does this normally ever stop because, again, this is a business based on modeling. Oh, look at that. I was talking about the book. Here it is. There's the diagram I talked about earlier. And then modeling. Look at this. It's almost like I made this presentation. So I talked about modeling this morning, but this business is so much based on modeling. What you do will be duplicated. It's like raising a child. I've never raised one. I've been raised. If you don't want your children to swear, you don't swear in front of your children, right? It's a fairly well-known principle. If you want your team members to have a behavior, then you should be the first one doing that behavior. Who here knows events are important like this? This is cool. Who here's been to convention? So that's a very important event for your business. I've heard from many of the Crown Diamonds and Royal Crown Diamonds, it takes 1 to 2 years off your learning curve. When you think about that in a 4 to 5 year time frame of a 4-year career, 1 to 2 years is a long time. So the nice advantage you guys have of being at this event is they have convention registration here on site. This is not out anywhere. You got that out there? It's not out. They're not actually releasing convention tickets until January 1st, except for select events which are corporate promoted or endorsed, like this event. They allow pre-registration that saves you $20 per registrant. So I was so busy at convention with speaking and chatting with people that I actually didn't get to register for convention at convention. So I registered today, and I encourage you to do the same. Because, again, you're going to save money. You want to be there. The people who are there are the ones who are going to rank events. They're going to see the best growth in their business, and it's not available to anyone else for 2 more months. So it's going to be crazy. So whatever you do, your group will model. And this goes down to every single behavior. If you gossip, your group will say, hey, it's okay to gossip. If you cross-recruit people from other organizations, they will think, hey, I can do that too. If you talk bad about other leaders or other organizations, you are giving them permission to act the same way. Now, I picked some negative things to focus on there, but if you always focus on being solution-oriented and finding solutions to problems, you will force them to become solution-oriented. And this is a perfect test of that time right now when you look at Young Living's growth. Yes, there are some systems within Young Living that aren't ideal, that are kind of stretching thin, and this becomes a time where you can become solution-oriented, or you can be part of the crowd that likes to just create a little bit of noise in the background and find everything that's wrong. And I kind of drive my people insane a little bit, I think, because they'll bring me all these issues, and I never really feed into them. I'll listen to them. I'll make sure that I know that they're heard. I understand you. I know how you feel. But what are we going to do about it? Because when we become solution-oriented, your personal organization can grow quicker. There's always going to be some sort of issue or roadblock throughout sharing Young Living with others. I ran into an issue in Canada, October of 2012. They had some issues importing products into the country where we did not get any orders. It wasn't just like the Everyday Oils kit and the starter kit. It was any order into Canada for almost an entire month did not get through the border. They all sat there. They didn't get processed through. In the end, they had to ship them back to Young Living, and then they reshipped them out. But we went through an entire month where nobody got their order for 30 days. It's a pretty big issue when you're in the business of distributing oils. And there's no distribution. So yes, there was, do you remember that, Barney? Were you, yeah? And so groups that latched onto that issue, they created so much of a ruckus, and their group suffered from it, whereas we, again, I'm not getting my own orders, I'm having an issue too, but just choosing to see a positive aspect and know, hey, there's always going to be these issues, but the ones who stick it through, these times will be the ones who get the best results at the end. When the Canadian market opened, we had some modifications that happened. We actually run 2 Essential Rewards templates in Canada. We've got a Canadian market one and a USA market. It means we have to pay for 2 separate shippings. We've got different promos. Until the new virtual office came out, we actually had 2 separate websites. You had to send people to different things. Imagine explaining that to a new person. Not the best scenario. And there were groups that just could not find anything right, no matter what type of solution you brought to them. And then there's other groups that latched on saying, hey, we've got a great product, the best product in the world. An extra $10 shipping isn't going to deter anyone who sees these results from sharing with others. And so our group really thrived throughout that market launch. There were some positive things. It allowed us sales on the ground. It increased awareness throughout Canada. It gave us more of a sense of national pride. It allows us to do things differently. And also, in looking at the greater picture for Young Living, Canada was kind of the test market for opening that way, because when Hong Kong opened, they went through the exact same thing. Being smart, I reached out to the Platinums, the main leaders in Hong Kong, at the Gold retreat last year, and made sure that we informed them of what was to come and said, here's what you're going to deal with, hands down. You're going to have 2 shipping, you're going to have OTG, NFR, you're going to have all these things. If you can make your people aware of this a little bit before and talk about solutions and how it's been dealt with in Canada, you'll get much better results. Again, passing down generational information from leader to leader, supporting all lines, and it produced great results for Hong Kong. When they're doing that in Malaysia right now, it just makes the company and all the leaders that much smarter and more effective. So I can't encourage this enough. This comes down to, again, when I'm talking about personal development, one of probably your biggest assets in your business is yourself, because you have to be the best leader you can for your group. You can't use your sponsor as an excuse anymore. You can't use your past experiences with any other network marketing company, your job history, your background, education. You have to be the leader that you wish you had. I've got 24 people in my upline. My sponsors, my parents, they are also Diamond. But aside from them, I didn't get any form of recognition in my organization for hitting Crown Diamond, even though we've got a substantial group of Canadians in our group. So there's a lot of support for that. And yeah, like I'm decently high profile in the Young Living world, but there was no form of recognition, no assistance from those 23 other people really throughout my entire journey. Again, I could have used that as an excuse at the beginning saying, hey, no one's helping me, but instead I know that I probably would value that recognition. And so as a principal in my group, I recognize every single rank advancement from star all the way up to diamond. So every single new star, no matter if you're 15, 20 levels deep and outside of a pay plan, you get a chemical-free home booklet and a congratulations postcard from me. Yes, it costs a decent amount of money the bigger and bigger your group gets, but I just see it as a reinvestment in and taking a negative situation and turning it into something positive. And it becomes more and more powerful when you model that way. And when I want to talk more about the meetings and the duplicating factor of that. I don't know what time I'm supposed to go to here. So I'll just take as much as they gave me. But when I'm booking or launching someone's business and we're talking about doing their initial home event, I really want to encourage them to book 2 events right away. So today is the 17th. So if I were going to launch Sonia's business, I would say, okay, let's run an event on the 20th and the 22nd. And then when Sonia calls up her friends to invite them, not just sending a Facebook message, but gives them a phone call and says, hey, I'm having this wellness gathering about essential oils. It's really been great for this person's respiratory support. I think you'd really be interested in it for your family. I'm having a gathering on the 20th. You want to come learn about it. Does that work for you? And they'll say, oh, you know, the 20th doesn't work for me. I'm too busy walking my cat, so I can't come that evening. But because they're a friend of yours, they'll say, but let me know when your next one is. If you don't have 2 events booked on the spot, then you'll hang up the phone and you'll be too afraid to call them back because you're afraid of rejection again. But if you got a second event booked right away on the 22nd, you say, actually, I've already got one booked on the 22nd. How does that date look for you? Nope, feeding the goldfish that night, that one doesn't work either. So if they've still shown interest after 2 no's, and they're saying, oh, but let me know when your next one is, then I like to turn the table and say, well, what day does work for you. If you're interested, we can even do it at your house. It doesn't take anything much. I'll just come over with my oils and reference guide. You don't have to do anything. You just need a living room. You can invite a few friends who might be interested as well. Is there a date that works there? Or if you're more comfortable having it at my house, we can do it especially for you. Now there's either going to be silence as they try and figure out what excuse they have now, or they'll give you a date that works. But if you start right away with that kind of implementation of trying to book those first 2 home events, one, your business will launch quicker because you're doing more in a shorter amount of time, but you can go through the process of booking more meetings quicker. And also, when you've got your list of 50 people that you want to reach out to about your home gathering, but you're already siphoning through who's actually interested and who's just feeding you information because they think that they're being nice to you as a friend. They don't want to hurt your feelings and say, hey, I've got no interest in your oil party, but thanks anyway. And then you can carry on. So booking those first 2 home meetings that way can produce exponentially greater results. It takes away that fear of rejection of calling back the second time, because if someone is genuinely interested in knowing more and you don't have a second date booked, they might want you to actually call them back, but depending on your mindset, you might be afraid to make that call because the first time they said no and you don't want to hear no again. So if you can just cut out that extra phone call, and if you're doing this 10, 20 times, you're still saving yourself a lot of time. You're being the most efficient with your time. And it's worked well for us. I'm the most atypical person to succeed because the average age of a Young Living distributor is a lot older than 25, especially when I started. The average gender, or I don't know if that's a thing, it's mostly female. So I can't be older or more female. That's not what I can do. Yeah, we understand. So when I first started out, I was trying to connect with people my age, my demographic, other guys. I wasn't the most successful right away. Again, I could probably go back and do better now than I did back then. But I wasn't too afraid to get in front of a group of people with a different chromosome structure than myself and interact in a home sharing session. I did resist it for about 2 years. I thought home parties were for girls and that no 21-year-old guy was going to go do it. But when I realized, okay, it needs to duplicate, Vicky was telling me the home sharing is the way to go. I forced myself to get in that living room in front of all the ladies, and all the husbands were upstairs playing poker or talking about what's this guy doing downstairs with all these oils. But it worked. Yes, it required some conscious languaging because I quickly realized women do not talk like men. They don't act the same. They don't think the same way. Do you guys do dress clubs here? Have you ever heard of dress club? No. Well, it's like this. Here's the concept of a dress club. You get 12 ladies together. They each pitch in $100 a month. You get together once a month to have a hangout. You sit there, drink wine, eat cheese, and then you do a draw, figure out who gets the $1,200 that month, and then they go on a shopping spree. And you come back the next month and model the clothes. And then they do it all over again for a year. In the end of the year, you've spent $1,200 and you've donated $1,200. It's the same. Why doesn't everyone just go shopping every month? So for me, and now I just start a whole thing here, it's going to be the new thing here. But I didn't get, I'm like, why would you do this? It's the same result in the end, but it was for that social experience of getting together, getting rid of the kids and the husband, and just having a ladies' night. So we just took that, and I was like, okay, well, now we're going to talk about oils, and instead of spending $150 a month on dresses, you're going to buy the oils, and then you're going to duplicate that out. And so although I've only got one leader in my entire organization who's a guy who's silver and above. And even he's kind of weird because he's an acupuncturist, so he's got his own little segment. But so for all the guys in the room, it's the number one question I'm normally asked is, how do I talk to my kids? Or how do you talk to guys? Or how do you talk to people your age? And truth be told, I tried that for so long, I just stopped talking to them, and I focused on the most receptive market, which I found out to be younger moms who have children. And I don't think that's a bad thing. If I look at network marketing statistics, direct sales stats for Canada, 93% of direct sellers in Canada are women. So when I look at those stats, I go, okay, I could try and fight for the other 7%, or I could just focus on the 93% that are willing and able. And as a nature, women are more of networking beings, not creatures, beings, than men. And when men get together, we don't necessarily always talk about children and what's going on with their health, or I can't get little Tommy to sleep at night. They talk about different things on probably a less emotional level. I'm not saying that's impossible to share with that, but my easiest way that I've found to get men on board is just help the wives make more money, and then the men are on board. And that still accomplishes the end goal of getting more oils in the homes. When the husband supports the wife, their results get exponentially greater, because if every single time you're leaving home and your significant other is not on board with you and maybe patronizes you a little bit or makes you feel bad about leaving the kids, that tugs in here, and it will naturally hold back the results. So when husbands get on board, and I shouldn't be just saying husbands, when spouses get on board, it produces exponentially greater results, because you're giving them permission to succeed, permission to dream, to fly, to whatever you want to call it. But so my biggest goal is, yes, I'm mainly trying to introduce to women from a product perspective, because I've found them the most receptive. But the sooner I can help them earn money, then I get full support from the other side. I also try and meet them personally so they know that I'm not weird. And then it just moves forward in a beautiful partnership. And then once a husband, spouse is on board, they start becoming comfortable in sharing their own ways, whether it's using nitro at work when other people are taking their Red Bulls or 5-hour energies, whether it's being conscious about using the oils around their coworkers without being self-conscious about using that hocus-pocus oil stuff. And you guys thought this was a business session. So it's always just about finding creative ways to share with others that duplicate. In that scenario, yes, I'm collecting their contact info to help them get more because they want more. But in the end, to be honest, my real goal is to get in contact with their wife and figure out how to get them connected with their group of people. Because I know just from what I've done that works for me. I've latched onto it. I own it. You know your niche. Run with it. I think there's other ways to completely share with other demographics and stuff, but I just want to share with you what's really been the difference maker for me. Because I think going into it, like 2 years ago, I don't think people necessarily thought that the parental market was really where it's at. But the reason I personally love that market is because they care about their children more than anything else. When they're in struggle, in pain, when they've got medical issues, and they've got to wait with frustrating wait times. In Canada, we've got socialist health care, so everyone uses it for the common cold. So there's times where you go into an emergency room, you'll wait 8-10 hours because it's all free, and so everyone's using it. And so people are spending their time, they're bringing their kids into a cesspool of sickness, and so they're looking for ways to find alternatives at home to produce better results for their family, and when it works, they want to share information with others. And to me, it just fits in. Even people who don't have the money for it, you will find money for your children if they've had a skin irritation that's been bothering them for a long time and nothing has worked, no type of cortisone cream, nothing. And then you can provide them lavender, which will support their body's natural response to inflammation. Then they will want to share the information with others. And this whole FDA thing, there's so many ways that you can share information in a way that is sharing Young Living the right way. They're doing better about providing us resources that we can duplicate with. You can provide your members with a way to do it. But at convention 2 years ago, 3 days before convention, they let all the speakers know, saying, hey, they're going to be showing up at convention. We need everything to be compliant. I had to modify my PowerPoint. It became the fluffiest thing you've ever heard. Everything was supports. But it still gets the point across. And so even with that whole scenario, there are some of those open Facebook groups, and people were just lashing out at each other. There's so much negativity around it, and people were just going crazy over this thing. And I said, this is a real thing. It's not like the rules have changed. They've always been this way. You look at policy and procedures from 15 years ago, it still says we can't say those things. We just got lazy, and we're just saying things we're not supposed to or allowed to say. We're never intended to treat Daniel's prescribed. So the way that we can find to share with others in that effective way, it protects the company, it protects ourselves. It's not a bad thing. It actually makes us, I've seen a lot of creative graphics going around about, these oils are so good, we can't even tell you what to use them for. And anyone hear what, like Harry Potter, and they got like Voldemort and like he who must not be named, and it's saying like, oh, this is good for what's not be named, or it was funny. But I'm passionate about the products. I'm equally as passionate about the business because it provides you a way to get a hold of more products. Because if you earn more money, you'll spend more on products and create that chemical-free home. But it allows you to be an integral part in transforming other people's lives. Because if you look at some of the biggest stresses in this world, finances come down to probably like top 1 or 2 for sure, whether it's, debt in a marriage or job stress. A lot of stuff can be solved just by having a steady passive income. And so when you start equipping people with that passive income, they start following their dreams more. They start becoming the person that they were meant to be. They start flourishing. They are able to focus on things that they want to focus on. Jolene Hay, who's one of my diamonds last month, she retired her husband. He was a cable installer. Before he was a cable installer, he took his whole pilot license, but there wasn't enough money in that, so he became a cable installer. I don't know how there's more money in installing cable than flying a plane, but there was. But because they were able to build their business up over the past 2 years, an accidental business, he's since retired from his job. She's a stay-at-home mom of 3. They relocated to Kelowna, British Columbia, which if you don't know Canada, it's like the promised land of Canada. It's warmer, there's a lake, there's way less snow. It's kind of like a Coeur d'Alene feel for the US, except you don't get a lot of that in Canada. And he was able to go and equip himself. He's a worship leader. So he helped with a church plant down in Kelowna, and he's able to volunteer because they didn't have a position that they could actually pay him to be a worship leader, that he's able to do it because he wants to do it. So now he's able to lead worship because he wants to, instead of installing cable in Red Deer, Alberta. So when you provide people with better finances, you really are able to help so many people. It's a big ripple effect. It duplicates out as well. And so I'm quite passionate about making sure that people see the opportunity at hand with Young Living. So I'm looking forward to doing my introduction to the business tonight. It's probably my favorite topic to do. It's short, funny. You wouldn't think you're at a business intro meeting. So if you've got someone that's maybe sitting on the fence that you've been waiting to talk to, you don't know how to talk to them about the business, let Sonia and I do the hard work for you. Bring them here. Let them hear about the products from Sonia. Let them hear about the business from me. And then you can go seek and oil up people, get them to book their home events, and you can see a good duplicating exponential result. So I'm over my time. Sonia.